I'm very grateful to be here with Karen Aaes in Aarhus, Denmark, and having an interview about essence and the term and meaning of what essence is, and how she actually discovered this term and this sensation or emotional sensation. So, Karen, thank you for having me. And can you maybe explain a little bit about how you got into this and how you got started doing what you're doing right now?
Yeah. The work about essence, that's what you like to hear about?
Yes, please.
Yeah. It started when I went to Denver about 13 years ago, and there was a course about the core. And core, they didn't have the term essence, but it turned out during the course that when we asked a personality that was blocking something, what it really wanted in a special way, what it wanted to achieve through all its ways of trying to obtain, get home, it ended in its own essence. And that was so amazing at that time, also for the people who had the course, who held the course. That was not their intention. So suddenly the whole group sat in their essence, instead of dealing with the problems and that the personality parts had.
Okay.
So that's how it started.
So can you try to give an example of what it means to be in your essence?
Yes.
So how would you get into your essence or your core?
The way I have worked with it ever since has been that I work with two levels.
Okay.
There's the essence, level of essence, and there's a level of all the patterns that we're having in our personality. And when we're born and when we're at home in ourselves, we're in this essence. And we can drop out of the essence and down into some pattern in the wood, as I call it, if something scares us. So I always work with it in connection with what's going on in the mind and in the body and in the personality, not as an abstraction,
Okay.
but as a concrete pole to the patterns we're in. It sort of always fits with it. Once we fall out of our essence, the part that falls out always connects back like magnetism to the part of the essence that it fell out of. So that if a person feels very lonely, what it wants and longs for is to get back into unity, of course, with itself. It tries to get the unity and love and all of that from other people, but once it gets home, it gets back in its essence, with all the experiences it had living in the wood, in the pattern. So that once it gets back, the essence is much more bright than it was even before. So it grows that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just a model, of course.
Yeah, no.
It works in practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's say that somebody, because I was reading about this terminology many times, right?
Yeah.
I've read many books where the term core has been used, probably in English more than in Danish, because in Danish it's easier to say essence.
Yes.
Because in our language it's just a different meaning and terminology than in English.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has always been hard for me until I actually experienced what it means to be in your essence or in your core was that in every single book I read, it was always a terminology. It was always an abstract idea.
Exactly.
And people were always saying, oh, I'm in my core, and then you do this, and then you do that, and you feel like this.
Yeah.
But if you're not accustomed to going into your body, like let's say you're a person that is living a life that is full of stress, and you have to decrease the level of stress to get into that peaceful state, because for me, essence is being in peace.
Yeah.
How would you guide somebody? How would you, not in an abstract way, but in a very physical, bodily way, guide them into being in their core?
Yeah. One of the ways, there are many ways, one of them is to work with the pattern and get the part home Another way is, if you don't have the time for that, or you don't want to do it in this more therapeutic way, it's called. There's another way, and that is helping people or helping yourself to get back and associate in sort of highlights in your life, in your past. There's been a lot of glimpses of essence that we have forgotten. So once you start looking back at, starting with what is I want, for example, peace.
Yes.
Feel your body, get down in your body and feel what kind of peace is it. When have I experienced that kind of peace before? And then let your body search back and find it. You're unconscious, but you need to be in your body and feel that what is it I long for? You're sort of in the part that fell out of the essence, that longs back to peace. So the body feels a glimpse of this. What is it that I long back to, that that I want to be a part of again? What is it I've lost? I've lost my peace. So you start searching through your body, through your unconscious mind, back to those moments, highlights, sometimes just a split second that you experience this kind of peace once in your life. And you can guide yourself like having examples of where people normally feel this total peace, the real essence. That's often together with very small children or animals or nature, or maybe one of your grandparents that meant something special to you and saw you and heard you, and where the love was unconditional. That works for most people, to give these suggestions. Find maybe one of these situations. In one of these you can find this, what you're longing for. That often works, so that you don't want to go back to a time where other people told you were brilliant or something. That's not essence. That's other people's recognition, and that's not what we're searching for. That's an ego thing. But you search for a moment where where you were not self-conscious or self-centered, but where the moment was full of this being of peace, for example. So that's one of the ways that you guide yourself into one of these, I call them mentor situations, like, as I said, nature, or small children, one of the grandparents, animals that you cared about or care about. Because that's where you meet this pure love that's the core of the essence, in my opinion.
Okay, so when did you come up with the term essence? Because you were mentioning that before, when you were in Denver, they were calling it the core.
Yeah.
So what is, for you, is there a difference between the terminology, or is that just the difference in language of Danish and English? Is it the same thing? Is core the same as essence?
I think it's more precise to say essence, because when I went over there to the States, the core was also the core of a problem. So it's used in different senses. Mm-hmm. Whereas essence of your own being is just one. It cannot be misinterpreted. It's just one thing.
Okay.
It's when you boil away, in my opinion, of course. It's when you boil away all the patterns, all the values and belief systems and all that, and what is left is just the essence of your being as a part of the soul that's in this life right now.
Interesting. So how did you get to that idea from where you were before?
By working with people all the time, teaching them, working with them, seeing what works. So it's not abstract ideas. It's what works. How do people express these things when they are on different levels, when they're seeking back to what they long for, and so on. So it's through praxis, definitely.
Trial and error. So
I read 1 million books too.
Yeah, for sure. Could you use, let's say, can you use essence to heal traumas as well? Or would that be a different thing?
Sometimes you can. Sometimes you need to move the shocks from the body first to make it total. I find that the most effective way to heal traumas is both. That's how I do it. Remove the shocks from the body and reunion the part that had the shock with the essence, sort of integrated in essence. That's the structure of the work I do always, to make a part of somebody get home again in the essence.
Interesting.